He spoke, I thought, interestingly this week. He always has something interesting to say, doesn't he, Ruben Amorim, about scarred players. I mean, and I guess that plays into what you're saying about the difficulty of playing here in front of 70,000 with all the same old expectation,
Yeah.
but without the sort of underbelly of success and self-belief and all of that. And he spoke of anxiety, and maybe to some extent that second half was a little bit of a healing second half.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, half-time, I said just after half-time that I think Ruben Amorim goes in at half-time and says, look, lads, what are you worried about? Just play. You know, the goal gives him something to be able to obviously encourage them on. They feel like they've got something to sort of play to and hang on to. And also that Arsenal couldn't hurt them. That's the one thing I think Ruben Amorim will have been saying at half-time is, look, you've sat back there and Arsenal have thrown everything at you in terms of possession, but they've not been able to break you down. That next step is just show a little bit of confidence in your attack. And I thought through Garnacho and I think through Bruno Fernandes, I think Xerxes as well, there were moments in that second half where I thought that they could sort of build on a little bit in terms of confidence. But you're absolutely right. They are void of confidence, and this place is huge. I mean, the stadium's big. It's the biggest stadium in the country when it comes to, obviously, Premier League and league football. And it's an expectant crowd, and the microscope is on you all the time. You can't get away from it. But that's why they signed here. That's what they wanted. You know, that's the glory that comes with scoring the winner and the celebrations and the obviously healthy pay packet as well. So you can't have it always. You need to be able to make sure that the sort of negative will come if you don't perform. But I actually thought in the second half there was some decent stuff. I thought the back five stuck at the task. I thought Casemiro actually had one of his better games in central midfield with Bruno Fernandes. So there were some positives, I think. And look, the big game is obviously this week now on Thursday, and Real Sociedad are going to be tough. But I thought they did well in the first 65, 70 minutes last week over in Spain. And there's something to build on. And can they finish the season stronger and have a run in the Europa League? That's going to sort of make or break Ruben Amorim's end to the season, and whether he can end the season well and go into next season with a little bit more confidence. But yeah, it wasn't a bad day for United. I thought it was a worse day for Arsenal, and I'm disappointed in them. I'm disappointed in United. Let's be clear, they're 15th in the league. But I'm really disappointed in Arsenal that they've not been able to sort of really motor on this season. From what has been two really good seasons of progression for them, this one's a step back. So the first half was a really strange game where United didn't offer anything, and then go in at half-time 1-0 up and score the goal. Interesting how United scored in the first half, and I think their performance was better in the second, and Arsenal scored in the second half and their performance was better in the first. Some of the old sort of patterns of problems for these two teams appeared on the day. I think we saw that United in the first half looked really void of confidence, didn't they? They just looked like they were waiting to get beat, but the team that were playing against them couldn't really create anything. They're recycling it really well. Some of the passing from the back and through midfield to the edge of the United box was decent, but they came up against the United team that was sort of quite well organised in that 5-4-1, and they couldn't get through it. Arsenal didn't have the innovation, they didn't have the sort of one-on-one ability in wide areas, and they didn't also have, I think, a centre forward who can make the runs alongside Manchester United centre backs who had that sort of killer eye for goal. And Marino's doing a good job up there, sort of filling in. But it hit home in the first half, particularly when Arsenal had 70% of the ball. United didn't really attack at all until well into injury time in the first half. What a problem Arsenal have and why they're so far behind Liverpool, and it's cost them a Premier League title. And I've said it over the last few weeks. I think these players can feel let down. I think the manager can feel let down. I think they should have been supplied over the last year or so with a striker. And I'm not talking about a striker. I mean, striker could have got injured, but Havertz and another striker and Jesus. So for me, they've left themselves woefully short of attacking players. They have had injuries, but you've got to plan for that. You know, the reason we had 4 centre forwards back in the day, the reason Liverpool have got 6 forwards now that can interact and play, and Darwin Núñez can come on yesterday and, you know, pick up the pieces of someone else who doesn't quite hit the form on the day, is because you need that in a season. You need to be able to call upon people and rely upon your bench and your squad. And Arsenal, I think, have fallen short, and it was more evident in the first half, I think, than ever.
I asked you this a bit in the game, and it maybe sounds like a naive question, but I do think people are interested. Marino's playing centre forward. You're willing to say he's a very, very good footballer. He's not doing anything quotes wrong, but what is it that's missing? What does what you might call a qualified striker have that Mikel Merino doesn't have?
Well, it becomes obvious when you start to think, well, what would happen if Thierry Henry was up there, or Robin van Persie, or even Lacazette and Aubameyang in the last few years. It's just basic. I mean, he's doing a job up there. He's controlling it. He's passing it wide, but he's not living on the shoulder. He's not smelling moments in behind. He's doing the basics right. He's filling in. He's not a centre forward. If you put someone up there who could link with people better, who could make runs in behind, who could score goals, whose job it is been all their lives to score goals, then you just see a direct advantage straight away. And Arsenal have needed this for a couple of years. They've been woefully short in that department, and I just don't know why they've ended up in this position. And Merino, look, he's doing a good job. This is not a criticism of Merino or any of the players. They may be able to improve in wide areas as well, but I think Trossard, Martinelli, Saka, Nwaneri, I think they're good enough. I think between them, they've got some decent wide players. I think Ødegaard's a good, off the front player. I think Rice makes good runs from midfield, and we've seen him contribute in attacking areas today. Merino can obviously do that as well, but they lack a focal point up top that can do the job for them.
And do you believe that is the single, or at least the single most important reason why Liverpool have got away from Arsenal?
Yeah, better attacking options. I think Liverpool don't have to play well to rely upon their front six to deliver. Liverpool can play deep. Liverpool have, in certain games, you've seen play 3 or 4 different styles. Sometimes they go direct, sometimes they'll play deep and play counter-attack. Arsenal can't even counter-attack. So Arsenal can't counter-attack, and when they have the ball in possession in the final third, they can't really innovate and play through. So the 2 ways you score goals in games, three ways, is set pieces, and set pieces they've been pretty good at. Weren't that great today, but set pieces they're doing well on. The other 2 areas that you mainly score goals from is when you're in possession dominating the game as a top team, or when you're counter-attacking and you can really go quickly. They find themselves always having to come back and recycle and play it across the field. And predictable, safe. They're doing a good job at times, but they need players who can interact with each other and quicken up the play in the final third, and that's what really good top players do. And Liverpool are just better in the final third than them, and the attacking metrics show that Arsenal are very good defensively, even though I thought in the second half today United, to be fair, had 3 or 4 big chances, but they still, through their goalkeeper and back 4, only concede 1 goal.
We'll tidy up the rest of the top of the table, Liverpool, Forest and City afterwards, but perhaps we should deal with Manchester United first. Was there something there to encourage you today?
A little bit. I mean, I'd like to touch on the Manchester United goal,
of course,
on the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's strange, really. I mean, Arsenal are quite a wise team, and they're usually cute. And I just thought they got. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the referees pushed them back too far, which is a mistake. But ordinarily, you would start to sense you're too far away, and you start to creep forward, and they didn't do that. And it ends up that Bruno Fernandes has that ability to play it over the wall. So I think that's something that needs mentioning. Coming on to United. They don't like playing here at the moment. This is it's a struggle for them. There's just a sort of weight on their shoulders that exists that means that they find it difficult. But they can in moments when they get a goal, all of a sudden just rise. And you saw that. Second half, I thought they played some decent stuff. I mean, they're obviously still up against it at times with Arsenal, but they created some big moments. There's some big chances out there for United. Raya made some great saves. Højlund, again, demonstrates why he's just not quite sharp enough in front of goal. I think he could have got the shot away quicker when Declan Rice tackles him. His touch could have been a little bit to the left. But I think Ruben Amorim will be really happy with the second half. I'm just looking here at expected goals that we're looking at on your sheet. United have got higher expected goals than Arsenal in that game. And that doesn't surprise me because I think some of the chances that United had in the second half were big. I thought that was a good second half for United. I mean, they didn't score in the second half, but I thought the performance was so much better. I think United fans can live with that. If they're defending deep, but then there's still a threat going forward, that isn't a problem. I think the first half is a problem when you're defending deep and you offer nothing. I mean, the first shot on goal was Bruno's free kick. It was a great free kick. But, yeah, I think the second half was a lot better. I think Ruben Amorim, after this last... it could have gone really badly wrong for him this week. You think about after Fulham last week and going out of the FA Cup, you could see that maybe if they get beat in Sociedad and then obviously come here and get beat, it would have been a real dampener coming into the next game at Old Trafford next Thursday against Real Sociedad, which is the return leg. But actually, I think they'll be a little bit they'll feel a little bit more confident leaving the stadium tonight, the United players. What could have been a difficult few days, actually I think has been a decent few days for them. And, we've got to remain calm because there were still elements of that performance which were well short. But at least they got the result and they did pick up in the second half.
Yeah. Tim, from a human point of view, if you go into a game 16 points behind the leaders, just a few weeks ago it feels like you were a few points behind. That has got to be difficult to maintain the levels of desire, hasn't it, when you know it's gone?
I thought about that this week, and it is gone, really, for them. And they'll keep chasing, they'll keep saying the right things, because they've said and done the right things for probably 3 years now. So collectively, they have the strong mentality, and they won't say or do anything else. But as a player, and the tough part is, thankfully for them, they got the result in the Champions League, because that at least continues to boost their spirits. But as for the Premier League, it's still very difficult to turn up and give the best of yourself.
Well, talking about Europe, we saw Tottenham make massive changes earlier on. They did get a point against Bournemouth. They've got the second leg of their Europa League round of 16 tie coming up, and Manchester United have as well. Basically, that's their season, is it not? Thursday night against Real Sociedad?
Thursday night is Ruben Amorim's biggest game as Manchester United manager. If they're going to have Champions League football next season, they need to win the Europa League. They're 1-1 against Real Sociedad. It might be a game like today where they don't dominate possession because they haven't got the players to do that. They might have to play a little bit deeper than they would like to be a little bit more structured. But they have got to win that game and keep their season alive. Without that, Bex, I think questions start to be answered.
Be honest, Gary. He's almost welcomed questions about his own position and his own future at this football club. In reference to Arsenal and Mikel Arteta this week, is he going to get the time that he needs to make the change that is necessary here at Manchester United?
I think they'll back him. I think that they'll back him in the summer, and I think they'll give him money and chance to obviously alter this squad. He is positive. I think that he's got nothing to lose by being positive because, to be honest with you, the managers over the years have tried to defend players. I mean, he's called them. You talk about what we say in this studio, but he delivered the harshest line on this squad. He said they're the worst team in Manchester United's history. And to hear that from your manager is unusual. In fact, it's rare.
Was he wrong to do that?
No, because I think it generally could be. It's a really poor squad, and obviously it's been expensively recruited over the last few years, but it needs ripping up. And the lack of pace, I mean, Mercer just talked about there, the lack of pace in midfield and attack and in wing-back areas is unbelievable. I mean, you've seen up front today, you've got Xerxes, Garnacho, who's got a little bit of pace, he's sharp, and Eriksen. Last week it was Højlund, Xerxes and Eriksen. You've got Casemiro and Fernandes in midfield who aren't the quickest, and you've got two wing-backs who are full-backs who can't, to be fair, create up top. So his attacking options to score goals are absolutely none. I mean, you talk about Højlund, he's living off less than scraps.
But they did create chances at the end.
No, they did.
That's the ironic thing about it.
Yeah.
They sat in because it was against Arsenal, but sometimes they should sit in against lesser teams. I think your ego and pride can get in the way, going, we're Man United, we're at home, we're going to go after teams. No, even against lesser teams, sit in. Yeah, you mightn't have real pace, but you still have, like lads today, lads get into good positions and a kind of mentality to get into the box.
The only manager in the last 10 years who's been able to actually play on the front foot successfully, that's been Van Gaal. The rest of them have ended up coming in with fantastic ambition to be a front foot team, a pressing team, but they've ended up at the back of their own box. Amorim, Ten Hag, Ole, Mourinho, Moyes have always ended up back at the edge of their own box, and that has got to change. I'm not saying you can do it sometimes, but you have to have the ability to also to be able to sustain attacks in the final third like Arsenal have done today. That's when you are a really good team, when you sustain possession in the actual opposition half. No United manager's been able to do that apart from Van Gaal.
So is it just a question of swallowing this very bitter pill this season, finishing 14th, trying to go as far as you can in the Europa League?
Yeah, obviously they'll be hanging their hat and doing well in Europe, and suffer the next few months, get to the summer, move lads on, which is easier said than done.
Thursday's
but we go
big.
back to it.
Thursday's
yeah,
huge.
huge game from them, of course. And we've spoken about other clubs over the last few months. The key to any club, bit of success, is get the recruitment right. You get that wrong, you will suffer for a number of years.
There we go. Roy Keane, Paul Merson, Jamie Redknapp, Gary Neville, thank you very much. Likely source for the equalising goal because Declan Rice has only scored one in the Premier League before today, 5 assists. But really important and a good finish as well.
Yeah, I think this is a lesson to any kid out there watching football. You don't always have to run around like a maniac. Sometimes you just got to stand still. He just stands still on the edge of the box. Look, don't move. rolls back to him. Other players will run into the box there. He literally walks into the box. I think it's brilliant play by Rice because he could easily get carried away. Look, he just stands still. For a brilliant finish.
Jamie?
Brilliant finish.
Well, I just look at this from Manchester United's perspective. They get themselves in probably when you feel like you've got safety in numbers. 9 men, and also the goalkeeper there, and everybody, if you can see, is pretty much looking at the ball. You've got your 2 defensive midfield, well, 3 of them there in the line. You've got Ericsson on the right, Fernandes the number 8, and then number 7 is Casemiro. Nobody has looked over their shoulder where there's a massive amount of space. Declan Rice has got his arms out. Please lay it back to me. I'm in a good position. No pressure on the ball, and he just pens it into the corner.
They're ball watching.
Absolutely.
United are ball watching. And sometimes they're having a little rest at the wrong time and they're a little bit fatigued. Too many players ball watching, get drawn towards the ball. And you give Rice, we know it's his only second league goal. I'm surprised at that because he's got a good strike on him and it was a brilliant finish. But United just ball watching.
You said that Manchester United might have gone on and won the game. They very nearly did. A really good...
You're 9 yards and you're creeping and you're jumping. They stop, they hit that. It hits the head. So it's... I mean, from an Arsenal perspective, I think they'll be disappointed because usually you feel that you're too far away and you start to creep and question. Obviously, United's players were aware of that in the second half.
Are we seeing the green shoots here? It was a lovely spring afternoon. Was there something here for Manchester United fans to cling on to, Roy?
I'm not sure, but I don't like where the manager feels he needs to apologise for the team sitting in. He's got to find a way to get good results. And sitting in, there's nothing wrong with sitting in, even for big clubs at home. Obviously, you'd want them to be a bit better in terms of possession. But if that's the way you can get results against teams you think are in a better place than you and obviously higher up the league and more confident, what's wrong with sitting in? I don't know why he needs to apologise for that. But it was a battling performance. Before the game, you thought, well, we take a draw. But listen, you have to give him a little bit of credit. But it was still, in general, I thought the game was of poor quality. But we saw 2 brilliant goals. But a long way back from United. Listen, we keep saying that. But they showed some battling qualities. I give them that.
You also heard him say there was obviously an acceptance, apologies about the style, but we need points.
Yeah, which is fair enough. Well, he said it.
Manchester United's performance against Arsenal will give them confidence they can knock out Real Sociedad on Thursday and reach the Europa League quarter-finals, says Gary Neville. Bruno Fernandes' controversial free-kick goal was eventually cancelled out by Declan Rice in Sunday's 1-1 draw, but United carved out several big opportunities in the second half of the Premier League clash and were cheered off by the home fans at Old Trafford. United remain in the bottom half of the Premier League and their hopes of silverware, and a route back to the Champions League, rest on the Europa League and the second leg of their tie with Real Sociedad, which stands at 1-1 after the opener in Spain. Neville says United boss Ruben Amorim, his players, and the club's fans can go into the decisive match with increased belief after responding positively to last week's FA Cup exit to Fulham. It could have gone really badly wrong for Amorim this week after Fulham and going out of the FA Cup, said the Sky Sports pundit on the Gary Neville podcast. I think they'll feel a little more confident leaving the stadium, the United players. I think it's been a decent few days for them. There were still elements of that performance that were well short, but at least they got the result and did pick up in the second half. I think they'll feel a little more confident leaving the stadium, the United players. I think it's been a decent few days for them. There were still elements of that performance that were well short, but at least they got the result and did pick up in the second half. I thought the back 5 stuck at their task. I thought Casemiro had one of his better games. The big game is on Thursday and Real Sociedad are going to be tough, but I thought they did well in the first 60 to 65 minutes in Spain and there's something to build on. Can they finish the season stronger and have a run in the Europa League? That's going to make or break Amorim's end to the season. Reflecting on United's limited threat in the first half and their improved display after the break, Neville said United don't like playing at Old Trafford at the moment. It's a struggle for them. There's a weight on their shoulders that exists that means they find it difficult second half. I thought they played some decent stuff. They were obviously still up against it with Arsenal, but they created some big moments. There were some big chances for United. David Raya made some great saves. Rasmus Højlund again demonstrated why he's not quite sharp enough in front of goal. He could have got the shot away quicker when Declan Rice tackles him. His touch could have been to the left. I think Amorim will be really happy with the second half. United have got a higher XG expected goals than Arsenal, and that doesn't surprise me. They didn't score in the second half, but I thought the performance was so much better. I think United fans can live with that if they're defending deep but still a threat going forward. That isn't a problem. The problem is the first half, when you're defending deep and offer nothing.